Good Sunday, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the show. Listen, I'm glad to have you guys here. Now, Deutsche Bank. This has been festering for a long time. Deutsche Bank has been slowly sliding into oblivion for a long time. They finally reached rock bottom in the last few weeks, and they're bouncing around on the bottom. They know that failure, the bank knows that failure is imminent, and so what they're actually doing is they're taking drastic action to try to save themselves at this point. A viewer sent me in an article that was very helpful for me to understand what's going on right now with Deutsche Bank and this new bad bank thing that they got going, and also cutting all these employees from their bank. It's the last desperate attempt to save their bank from failure. But the question is, will this maneuver that they're doing right now succeed? And the answer is probably not. So if that answer is correct, it probably won't succeed. And in a few months or even sooner, Deutsche Bank's going to go under. What will be the result? Well, my brain's been working on this thing for the last couple of weeks. I've been thinking about it and thinking about clearly what the results is going to be. And I think I've come up with an answer on what's going to actually happen when Deutsche Bank goes down. Because I think their failure is getting ready to be imminent. So let's get started. Let's open up the charts right here and take a look. Now here's the article. It was an article about this new idea that Deutsche Bank has, where they're going to create a bad bank. But you know, this has been done before, and they go into quote about it. But here they talk a little bit first about how Deutsche Bank has had losses over the last 3 of the last 4 years. Its share price has lost 90% of its value since February 2007. At the close of trading, they only had 16.14 billion in common equity, and that against 49 trillion of notional face value in derivatives. Now, here's the thing: is this bank, Deutsche Bank, is going to cut the jobs of 15 to 20,000 employees from their payroll. This is one of the moves that they're going to make. One of the things that they're trying to do but that's just downsizing. All that is downsizing the bank. It's downsizing a monster bank that's linked in to most all of the banks in the financial system with these derivatives, and so it's a sinking hulk. The way the article describes it here is absolutely perfect. It says Deutsche Bank is a sinking hulk. A hulk, you know? So, this is not unprecedented, this bad bank thing. It was done with Citigroup. And so we're going to read this a little bit here. It says that Citigroup did it in January of 2009. And this was after they turned their former CEO, Sandy Weil, into a billionaire from obscene stock option grants and paying former Treasury Secretary Robert Rubin over $120 million over a decade for a seat on his board, and other similar drunken sailor compensation sprees. So, you know, Deutsche Bank has had their fingers in a lot of bad stuff too. You know, I'm telling you, Deutsche Bank is it's criminal what they've done within the financial system, you know, and the amount of times that they've got in trouble. But that being the case, the U.S. government was behind Citigroup, I should say. It says the U.S. government infused $45 billion in equity capital into the Citigroup Bank. following the 2008 episode. Now, see, this is going back to 2008. It says, so after reporting more giant losses for the fourth quarter of 2008, on January 16th, 2009, Citigroup announced it was gathering up all of its toxic assets and shoving them into a bad bank. This is exactly the same thing that Deutsche Bank's doing. It was going to be called Citi Holdings. It was going to be the name of the bad bank. The bad bank would also hold the $301 billion in assets that the U.S. government had agreed to backstop against future prior losses in the prior November. So the U.S. government was backstopping this bad bank with $301 billion in assets that the U.S. government had agreed to backstop them with. So Citigroup, when they did the bad bank thing, they had $301 billion in assets that the U.S. government was backing them with, and also they had that $45 billion in equity capital. They had, so they were supported through this procedure. But what did the procedure do of creating a bad bank? It says the day that Citigroup made its bad bank announcement, okay, Friday, January 16th, 2009, its stock closed at $3.50 a share. By March, it had lost 2/3 or more of its stock value. So now Deutsche Bank's planning on doing this same thing, this bad bank business. And if Citigroup's stock lost 2/3 or more of its value, and they were supported or buoyed by the United States government giving them $301 billion in assets here, and also giving them infused $45 billion more in equity capital. So if they were supported that way, and they lost 2/3 of their value in their shares, not long after, I mean, how on earth is Deutsche Bank going to survive this? So now we're going to talk about what I figure is going to happen when Deutsche Bank goes down. And this is where it gets kind of dire. Because Deutsche Bank is so integrated and they got this $45 trillion derivatives book, and a lot of the big U.S. banking system is exposed to this. I think it's enough. The $45 trillion is probably enough, because even though there's different sets of values on derivatives, they kind of cancel each other out with notional values, and even though they cancel each other out a lot, still 45 trillion. That's not 45 billion. That's 1,000 times bigger than 45 billion. 45 trillion. And it's interlocked into the United States banking system. So I think what it's going to do, when Deutsche Bank goes down, I think almost instantaneously, it's going to cause a lockup in credit. It's going to cause world credit to freeze. It's going to cause the banks to freeze. It's going to cause everything to freeze. It's going to cause it'll cause the world's financial system to lock up. Of course, when the world's financial system locks up that way, the only thing that's going to unlock it is liquidity. When it locks up, basically nothing is moving within the financial system. Means basically Wall Street will be closed. It basically means all trading and everything will be closed. Everything will just be locked up. Gold and silver price will be locked up. I don't think Bitcoin will lock up, because it's somewhat disconnected from the regular financial system. The trading of Bitcoin will probably continue. The internet will probably stay on. But your local banks, probably just about every bank in America, the doors will be locked. It'll be a banker's holiday. Your ATMs won't work. Your credit cards, probably because they're linked into the bank, probably won't work. Nothing's going to work. I think Bitcoin's still going to be functioning. And probably, this lockup is going to be a sudden, in-your-face, not a catastrophe, but a crisis, an absolute crisis. In the financial system, in the Fed, everybody, it'll be a panic. It'll be what almost happened in 2008. The system almost locked up, almost melted down in 2008, but didn't. They stopped it just ahead of time. This time, it would, because of the way computer algorithms and work and everything, it'll lock the system. So, how do they unlock it? They are going to be in a panic. They're going to hold emergency meetings. This is the kind of thing where they call people in the middle of the night and they tell them, you need to come into this emergency meeting, sort of thing. The entire world's financial system has locked. Because Deutsche Bank just went down. They had $45 trillion in derivatives, and nobody's sure if they can cover within the banks, nobody's sure if they can cover their losses. And it's basically, if we open the system back up, we're going to have bank failures all across the United States. So we're not going to open the system back up. We're not going to unlock credit. We're not going to unlock the system. We can't unlock the system until these banks that were connected to Deutsche Bank are made whole again. So, do you really believe that if the Fed comes into a meeting where that situation has happened and a number of big American banks have locked up and credit's frozen across the world, nothing works, none of the banks work, all of your debit cards, nothing works, and they're called in the middle of the night for emergency meetings, do you think they're actually going to sit around the table and say, oh, well, I think we'll just let this proceed the way it's going and we won't do anything to stop it? We'll just let it go. We'll just let the world melt down and we'll let it turn into a Mad Max world. And you think that's what they're going to do? Or do you think they're going to sit around the table and come up with a solution? I think they're going to sit around the table and come up with a solution because that's what they've been called into the emergency meeting for. So they'll sit around and they'll have emergency meetings and they'll have to come up with a quick solution. And I can almost tell you with 100% certainty what the quick solution is going to be. It's going to be an emergency creation of liquidity and capital to refinance the banking systems that have taken the losses. And they're not going to care about if everybody in America says, no, we don't want you to refinance the banking system. No, we don't want you to bail out the banks. They don't care. They'll bail out the banks whether you want it or not. That's what they're going to do. They're going to unlock the system by bailing out the entire banking system. But unlike in 2008, where it took a few $100 billion here and a few $100 billion there to solve the problem, this time we're talking a $45 trillion problem Deutsche Bank will create. And so for a $45 trillion problem, you're not going to be able to solve it with $100 billion here and $100 billion there. We're now talking trillions. So the only way they're going to be able to solve the problem is by dumping trillions of dollars of liquidity into the banks to basically prop up the banks and guarantee and backstop their losses from what Deutsche Bank caused. This is the way it's going to go. So, this deflation that the system going down would cause, in other words, a recession would cause, tremendous amount, recessions cause deflation. This situation could happen in a way where the entire system locks up in one day, nothing moves, everything stays the same price when the system's locked up. It's basically like freeze, you tell a guy on a street corner, freeze, he doesn't move, he's frozen. The system would be frozen. Everything stays the same. The prices on everything stay the same. But, boom, when they unlock it and put it back on, then there's going to be a reaction to that amount of liquidity that they've just dumped into the system to reprop up the banks. And the system comes back on again. They've made all the banks, I don't know, maybe 5, 6, 8 banks maybe, that were in trouble because Deutsche Bank went down. They've made them all solvent again with this massive injections of liquidity. Now the system's going to react to that massive injection of liquidity. And how do you think the system's going to react? The dollar's instantaneously going to take a massive hit. That reaction to it's going to cause instability with the system. But that instability won't last very long. After a few days goes by, or weeks, the system will calm back down again. But now it's just been fed with a massive injection of liquidity. I'm talking in trillions and trillions of dollars worth of new dollars out there for everyone to spend. Well, not everybody. The big boys on Wall Street. Massive amounts of money. But that liquidity will make its way into the system. They talked about what happened after 2008 with quantitative easing 1, quantitative easing 2, Operation Twist, quantitative easing 3, and this massive injection of liquidity into the system. They talked about it like it never made its way into the general system. And that's not altogether true. What happens is it does go into what's called the liquidity trap. It doesn't stay in the liquidity trap. It leaks out. Liquidity leaks out into the system. And it leaked out enough where it started to create inflation in the system. And it started to create an economic recovery of a sort. It was mostly based on Wall Street, not on Main Street, the recovery. But it was enough of a recovery where they were able to get away with claiming an economic recovery. But it wasn't enough to put us into a hyperinflation. This is going to be different. This is going to be much bigger, much larger, massive injections of liquidity. And what it's going to do is it's going to put us into a hyperinflation. And this is what's coming. Now, the thing is there any chance that this won't happen and Deutsche Bank can somehow stay alive? Well, we're going to have to wait and see. My take on it is Deutsche Bank has been struggling to stay alive. It's like they've been doggy paddling instead of sinking under the waves for quite a while now. And you can bet your bottom dollar that these maneuvers that they're making right now is they're stalling for time trying to survive. Ultimately, I can't see them surviving in the long term unless there's big changes to the financial system. Ultimately, they might be able to hold themselves alive for a few more months by these maneuvers that they're making, but it might not work either. It very well could all come down it could come down this week, to tell you the truth. You guys got to stay prepared, because do you have what you need in case we get a bank holiday all across North America here? Do you have what you need if you're not able to use your debit card for, say, 2 or 3 weeks? If the system's locked up for maybe 2 weeks. You'll get up in the morning, you'll go to get your breakfast. Maybe you go to Subways or you go to McDonald's to get your breakfast, and your debit card's not going to work. Do you have sufficient cash put away where you can pay them in cash? Or you're not going to have your breakfast if this happens. You know what I mean? Do you have something put away for yourself? Some canned food or stuff, because the groceries, I'm telling you, this could be a really bad situation, a panic situation, if Deutsche Bank goes down, because it's going to take them time to respond and fix and repair the damage. It's probably going to take them, I don't know, government normally moves extremely slowly, but in this case they won't move slowly on this. There's no time for slowly on this. If Deutsche Bank goes down and it freezes and locks the system, there's no time for slowly. They'll move much faster than normal in unlocking the system. But stay prepared for this, because I'm going to tell you what, guys, this could be imminent. Thank you guys for listening. Like and subscribe, and we'll catch you guys in the next show. Bye-bye.